We hear so many things about reporting obligations when we are a claimant or a beneficiary of Social Security Disability or SSI. I have here the a list from SSA under the SSA-16-INST. And I'm just gonna go down these bullets so you can hear them out loud of all the things, the reporting responsibilities you have if you are a disability insurance benefits beneficiary. So that would be SSD, not SSI. There are a ton of reporting obligations for SSI, so don't let that fool you if you're SSI. But I'm just going as per the SSA word on this, just so you have it in a audio in case you don't care to read this. But I am going to post it down below so you can have the list yourself. So, and it emphasizes here at the top, failure to report these things may result in overpayments that must be repaid. So that is the big kicker. And that is the reason why we always want to make sure we report when we need to, but don't think because you reported it as you should, that they will necessarily stop payments you shouldn't be getting anytime soon, even though you shouldn't be getting them. It doesn't work in real time. So I really always urge people, if they're going to be on one of the benefits, always know what the rules are. This is particularly pertinent when it comes to earnings, when it comes to Social Security disability. Know if you're over. Know the rules on TWP, what happens when you're out of that and into EPE, and which, if you're working and that month will, in hindsight, not have been owed to you, and you're going to have an overpayment for that month or a different month or many months in a row. It can really add up. So if you know about it and you're earning that much for that to happen, you can put that SSD put it in a little high interest bearing savings account. So when you have to pay it back, you got the interest. So you made out something, right? Right now they have those high, quote unquote, high interest savings accounts. So something to think about. Okay. It'd be nice if I gotta brighten this up. My old eyes can't see. Okay. So the first thing on their list is, you have to report if you change your mailing address for the checks, or your residence. And it says to avoid delay in the receipt of the checks, you should also file a regular change of address notice with your post office. Kind of common sense, right? Now, note that changing your mailing address, you could do online now at your My SSA account site. If you know how to get in there, and I really think everybody should, that's one of the things I believe you can change in there. So get to it. If not, when you send it to the SSA, make sure you send it with confirmation that they received it. I always say this, like certified return receipt requested with the U.S. Postal Service. That's when you have your little receipt for paying for it. And you also have that green card and the little long number sticker from the little receipt gets stuck on the post office person can help you set this up, because I know it's confusing until you know how to do it. But that way, when they get it, you're going to have this green card from the SSA where they signed when they got your mail. So now you have proof, and always keep your proof. All right, next, obviously, if you have a change to your citizenship or immigration status, ASAP, report it. Any beneficiary dies or becomes unable to handle benefits, that should be reported to the SSA. Obviously, if the beneficiary dies, the beneficiary is not going to be reporting it. And likewise, he or she might not be if something happens to him or her where he or she cannot handle the benefits. But hopefully a family member is going to report that, because when there's a death, those benefits stop. But others might kick in, so for some of the family. So you just don't know what it's going to be. Okay, what do we got? If you go outside of the USA for 30 consecutive days or longer, you have to report it. I should add that Social Security, unlike SSI, could still be paid to you, and or paid to you if you go away for a long time. Certain countries, not most, but there are some bad countries that we don't send money to. So just make sure you report it. And again, I would do it in a way that you can confirm they got it. So you never can be accused of failing to report. That could be trouble. If there's a custody change, it says report if a person for whom you are filing or who is in your care dies, leaves your care or custody, or changes address. You know, it's funny, in the Friday fraud law review, I just reported on a case where it was recent, and I'm not even sure it's out yet. So it would be out one of these Fridays. It's an OIG rendition of a recent prosecution, and usually it's when they've already been convicted. A mother was keeping the benefits of her child who she no longer cared for. Child was in someone else's care, and she was collecting that child's dependent benefit. So that's kind of nasty. And by the way, why don't you report it? Because what happened to her? Prosecuted. Okay. The next one. If you're confined to a jail, prison, penal institution, or correctional facility for more than 30 continuous days for a conviction of a crime, or you're confined for more than 30 continuous days to a public institution by a court order in connection with a crime. Okay, and that's the basic thing, that we are no longer eligible to receive our benefits when we are incarcerated for a certain amount of time. It's not very long, 30 days. One thing you should note, though, it's 30 continuous days. And this is important. I had a pro bono situation maybe a year or two ago. Family member contacted me because the SSA asserted an overpayment for a fellow because it said it was under the impression that he was in jail for more than 30 continuous days. He had been to jail, but it had only been for a few days, and there was a break, and then maybe it was another few days. They weren't continuous. So fortunately, the family was able to, it was a mental health case. So the family was able to produce the proof, maybe they got it from the jail or the court, or, if there was a public defender, maybe, showing that his days were not 30 continuous days. It was more sporadic. So it worked out just fine. But that is one thing that you will want to report so that you don't get an overpayment. And those people I've seen, I believe I saw not that long ago. I don't know if I reported on it with the Friday fraud law review, but a person who was incarcerated. And I feel like while in there, he was collecting, because, your dependents benefits will not necessarily stop because you're incarcerated, which is a good thing for yours will. So if you were helping them pay the rent, that's going to stink, but theirs won't if they're getting a dependent benefit. And this particular gentleman went to jail, continued to collect into his bank account the children's benefits that were in his care before he went to jail. So theirs are still payable, even though his weren't, but they were no longer in his care. They were in someone else's care. So while their benefits should continue, they shouldn't be going to him. So when he gets out, he goes and spends it, even though he doesn't have his kids anymore. Crazy. Okay, next thing, you become entitled to a pension, an annuity, or a lump sum payment based on your employment not covered by Social Security, or if such pension or annuity stops. Okay, this might be alluding to the windfall elimination provision. I know some government pension receiving people really hate it. Some of them hate it and don't understand it, and how it's actually mathematically more correct than them getting what they thought they were going to get, which was a welfare bonus. And some people, no one likes it, because when you're expecting money, it kind of hurts when you're not going to get it. But some people actually understand the reasons why their Social Security, retirement, or disability may be changed due to the WEP, windfall elimination provision. And usually that is automatically becomes known to the SSA when you file or become entitled, but not necessarily, which is why they're saying here you need to report it. If you're getting a pension, and again, it's going to usually be a government job, because some of those pension jobs didn't require people paying to Social Security, which is why there's a big effect on the ultimate Social Security payment you're going to get. But with the estimates that come out, that is not known at that time, because it doesn't become known until the person actually files for retirement or Social Security disability. Okay. Next, your stepchild is entitled to receive benefits. I'm sorry, your stepchild is entitled to benefits on your record, and you and the stepchild's parent divorce. Stepchild benefits are not payable beginning with the month after the month divorce becomes final. So the pending divorce doesn't seem to matter necessarily. But the ultimate divorce is going to take away that dependency of that child as your stepchild. So that should be reported, so the stepchild sadly doesn't get the benefit. Next, you have an unsatisfied warrant for more than 30 continuous days for a violation of probation or parole under federal or state law. So that would be any state, presumably, and federal law. So if you have an unsatisfied warrant, ironically, I don't imagine you're going to be calling the SSA to tell them, since you're not satisfying the warrant either. But anyway, it's on the record. It's something you have to report. Next, you have an unsatisfied warrant for more than 30 continuous days for your arrest for a crime or attempted crime that is a felony of flight to avoid prosecution or confinement, escape from custody, and flight escape. In most jurisdictions that do not classify crimes as felonies, this applied to a crime that is punishable by death or imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year. That's usually what we consider a felony, by the way, in the legal world, is it can be resulting in incarceration for more than a year. And it says, regardless of the actual sentence imposed, if the sentence could be that under the law, not what some slap on the wrist you get. Okay, so that's all that. Again, those are the rules. Something tells me some people don't report those. Okay, next. We're almost done, guys. Change of marital status, marriage, divorce, and annulment of marriage. You must report marriage even if you believe that an exception exists or applies. So just report changes in marital status, guys. All right. Next, you return to work. We did a different video on just this one because someone was asking. You have to report if you return to work. That's true if you are an employee getting a W-2, or you are self-employed, not getting you definitely don't get a W-2 when you're self-employed. You could get a 1099 if your client is a big company, such as if you are a gigger. Maybe you are an Uber driver or Lyft or DoorDash. Anything where you're going to get a 1099, you are self-employed. Some people don't realize that. They just think it's woo. And you report, and it says here, you return to work. So you're not necessarily reporting your earnings as per this, but you are, because it says report the actual, just the return to work, regardless of amount of earnings. That said, we have some questions about, do you report your monthly earnings if you are? Because how else are they going to know in a timely fashion if you've exceeded TWP, which will eventually put you into your extended period of eligibility, which can cause overpayments. So that's a sticky one, guys, because they don't really review them in real time. You know, you could be thinking you don't know anything about SGA, but you're doing your good old reporting and you happen to be over SGA and you're gonna, 12 months might go by and now you owe back $30,000. Again, as I've said elsewhere, try to know what your limits are to stay within the rules so that you don't ever have to face that. Because you can work part-time and be just fine if you follow the rules. But I'd be tempted to report it just to show that I was doing the good faith thing. That's just me. You must report if your condition improves. Two left, guys. So that's kind of hard. Like, you're not a doctor. I think a lot of times people don't realize when their condition improves. It's such a gradual thing. It's subjective. They're in their own body. It's gradual. We don't recognize when except for if we step on the scale or put on our tight clothes, we don't really know when we gain 15 pounds. We think it might be like 3. And then we're like, ooh, look at that scale. So, I can't imagine that they're going to be too tough on that one. But it says that here. So the notice is here. Your condition improves. There are obvious ones. There was a Friday fraud law review I just did, and I don't know if this one's published, but a fellow got SSD because of cancer. And many years go by, and he has a CDR, and they learned from the CDR records that his cancer it was all gone, you know, and he obviously knew his cancer was all gone. He was cancer-free, is the way they put it. And he never told them on the CDR because that was his disability. Now, I don't know if he had other medical problems that might have made him disabled anyway, but that wasn't what this is about. He never told them. They, on CDR, terminated him because he'd improved enough to go back to work. He appeals for reconsideration. While he's on recon, he does go back to work. And he never reports that he goes back to work. That alludes to the one we just discussed above, but also condition improves. He didn't report that his condition improved, certainly, and then he went back to work in an SGA fashion. And he got prosecuted. So that one was amazing to me. I get it. It did seem kind of harsh. I think he owed back like $13,000, and he was probably, I can't remember if he had to do jail time or just, I don't know. You have to watch. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Usually the people I report on are real bad eggs, and this is bad, but it's not as bad as some of the ones that you should hear what people do. The fraud, it's unbelievable. The greed. Okay, second to last one. You are under age 65 and you apply for or begin to receive workers' compensation, including black lung benefits, or another public disability benefit, or the amount of your present workers' compensation or public disability benefit changes or stops, or you receive a lump sum settlement. This is very, very common. I have these cases all the time. Usually they're past me. Then they settle, 2 years after we're done, they have a workers' comp attorney. I'm out of their life. They get a settlement finally. They need to report it because remember, there can be workers' comp offsets. It's the 80% rule, if that helps anybody. I have a video on it if you want to search for workers' comp. Probably in the title, that would get it to you. It might even have its own playlist. I'm not sure. I think I do have something about, because so much is workers' comp. Last but not least, if you become the parent of a child, including an adopted child, after you have filed your claim, let us know about the child so we can decide if the child is eligible for benefits. This is a positive one. And here's the funny thing one. You're not going to get in trouble if you don't, but you can lose money. It says failure to report the existence of these children may result in the loss of possible benefits to the children. So I'm glad they're throwing in something that, even though this isn't going to put you in jail for not reporting it, report it. It could be benefits. And, for those of you that don't know, when we have Social Security that we are collecting, if we have minor children or other dependents under the rules of Social Security, that child, let's say you have one, that child could get an additional 50% on top of what you get. So if you're getting 2,000, he could be getting 1,000. This can go really far to helping, support him while you're disabled and not able to earn the money you used to. Or if you have no financial issues, maybe you have a working spouse, think of that nest egg you could leave that child by just storing up that money that's not needed for his, survival. So either way, don't leave that money on the table. You paid for that insurance coverage for the child. That was all part of that money you've been paying in over the years, all those working years, you paid for that extra insurance. So use it. I would. Okay, that was the last one, guys. They do go on to say how to report, and that you could do it online, by telephone, mail, or in person, whichever you prefer. So I'll let you guys, do that the way you think best. Anyway, that's that. Those are all those mandatory reporting things according to the Social Security Administration when you are on Social Security disability. Take care, guys. Have a great night.